Hello, everyone. Welcome back to a different side of the inside. We're going to continue our conversation on what's going on in the High Desert State Prison. I have Clarence Knight with me, aka Papa C. I like saying that for some reason. But he's going to continue our conversation. He's going to talk more about the inmates, their rights that have been denied, and what does it take to get out of High Desert. All right, Clarence, it's on you.
Okay. I was talking about the fact that a lot of the inmates who are eligible to be transferred to level 3s and eligible to be transferred to 270 design prisons, which is the lower level for in California. And a lot of these opportunities, after providing the necessary clean time and programming expectations, are being impeded or sidelined, with a blanket statement that they're not doing transfers, or it doesn't just apply with transfers, it also applies with family visits. They got domestic partnership that's in place, and then you have family visit in place. The prison just doesn't have what it takes to facilitate certain operations. You've got like 6 cubicles out there for family visits, but you have 500 people eligible for family visits. It doesn't facilitate the need to fulfill their duty to provide family visiting. So a lot of the things that they do is they bust inmates for contrabands and things that weren't really an issue. It seems like they were permitted to have. They don't never make it.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
They wanted to write mass peoples up, to deprive them of receiving family visits, regular visits. They have this thing to where, if the staff chooses to eliminate a lot of people from programming and transfer, they'll come around with urine analysis and stuff like that. And if you refuse to take the urine test or drug test, then they deem it as automatically you're guilty of possession of something. You're automatically guilty of whatever type of test. If it was tested for heroin, you're automatically guilty for heroin. If they wanted to test for crystal meth, then you're automatically guilty for crystal meth or marijuana if you decline to take the test. And prison itself allows for the prison officials to impose taking your visits, taking your family visits, and finding you guilty of a 115 that lacks any form of evidence or physical evidence to charge you for from the beginning. But they'll find you guilty because this kills your clean time, your disciplinary free period. And this is how 3 to 5 to 6 years of being disciplinary free clean is wiped off the board, because this is how they applied themselves to keep from having to transfer you from the prison. There's a lot of tactics that are being used at High Desert, and they'll deny it, but their records will reflect differently. Auditors look at these paperwork and say, "Oh, they're up to standard. Oh, they checked all their boxes." But the auditors are not looking for the very thing that the public is concerned with. They're not looking for what the inmates are trying to point out, that they never got the opportunity to show through filing grievances what these people do. I have it on paperwork. I have a bunch of grievances that I filed against High Desert, where the warden had somebody in place to distort the facts, deter the processing, lie in their responses, act like this didn't happen. It's a whole lot of things that I have proof of because they have required duties. They have required duties. And when they don't perform their duties in accordance to the regulations, they're non-compliant. And when an inmate challenges these officers on these levels, he becomes the problem. He's the one who's starting trouble. He's the one who's waking everybody up to what they're doing wrong. There was a point in High Desert where the Inspector General had to come into High Desert in 2015 and install cameras. The investigative probe of 2015, they installed cameras. Those cameras were not put in place for inmates. Those cameras were put in place to watch for corrupt staff and these different negative entities. And they turned it around. They turned around and rely on those footages to find inmates guilty of infractions, but they found a way to either delete or skip over or hide every single thing that staff does. And even when staff do something, they downplay it as if this is not really what they were doing. But it's exactly what they were doing. But the inmate is the one who has to pay the penalty for every single thing. You got staff that sleep on the job, didn't even respond on time to an incident, but was able to go look at the cameras and write a report from the cameras. And they all do it together. So they're all basically writing the same report from the same camera footage and each other's reports. Something that's not permitted.
Right.
Each individual staff is supposed to report his own point of view, his own version of what he witnessed. You didn't witness it on the camera. You relied on the camera to do your job for you because you're not doing it. You weren't there to prevent the incident from happening. They weren't there to quell the incident timely. That's why a lot of inmates get staffed up so bad because the officers are not actually on site. But when they do know about an incident that goes on, they find out through the inmate task force. You got inmates who run around looking like real shot callers, but they're actually informants, you know. And I don't point out nobody. I don't say nobody in particular, but if the shoe fits.
This call and your telephone number will be monitored and recorded.
Every single inmate that has been permitted to walk around the prison as if they run the prison, you know what I'm saying, has something going on with the cops in some way or another, whether it be to control your own people through your own devices, you know, however you do it, you know, and, you know, you're performing as a liaison for the police, disseminate information to the inmate population who is not really trying to hear anything. They're trying to see changes. They're looking for results. They're looking for someone that is ready to step up to the plate against the administration and say, we've had enough. But these same influential individuals will never step up to the plate and do anything in protest against the police and the prison officials at High Desert because it will take away their status, you know. It will take away their mobility, their freelance and their free range mobility to walk around the prison like they're special, like they're better than the other inmates. And they really ought to be ashamed of themselves, you know, but inmates today don't have shame. A lot of them they're not easily embarrassed, you know. They don't feel guilty of what they do that's in the name of everything opposite to what the general population needs, you know, but they're always the first ones to run up and be a part of the food sales so that they can reap the benefit of, they have these food sales in prison where inmates are allowed to purchase foods from Costco's and different outside stores that provide pretty good food, better than the state. And they call it donations, but they're just really robbing the inmates because, you know, a $6.99 pizza is being sold to the inmate for $15.99.
Yes.
A 8-piece of chicken, eight-piece chicken thing that really, it's probably don't cost you no more than $10, but they charge you $22, $21 for
26.
8 or 10 piece.
I just ran into that with someone, and I was like, they charging y'all what? $8 for a piece of cake, $26 for 8 pieces of chicken, $15 for a burrito. I said, what? And they calling it a fundraiser donation. But, I mean, it's a ripoff for people that are earning slave wages in the first place. And then
they're not earning no wages.
Yeah, that's crazy.
They're not inmates are not earning wages. I'm sorry, Deborah, but inmates are not earning
Set
wages.
It straight.
Inmates, this PIA, Prison Industrial Industry Authority, they're into slave labor.
You have 60 seconds remaining.
Exactly.
These people are a billion-dollar industry, working the inmates to the bone, and they won't even give them a minimum wage pay while they're making billions and billions of dollars. And these inmates can't even pay their own restitution. These are things that need to be addressed. We got to take a pause. I have to bring this back to attention in just a few minutes. I'll be right back.
We're back.
Okay. As I was saying, this whole scam about how the PIA, really promotes slave labor and justification for slavery at the constitutional level, where there's the amendment that says that involuntary servitude is allowable for inmates who are in prison. So it's basically you can still slave inmates, and whoop them. You punish them and you don't pay them, but they work, and they produce. And what's a shame is that people who love their family members, even though they're incarcerated, they try their best to support these individuals, and they try to provide for the few funds that they're able to provide that has already been taxed by the governor, and then they turn around and send money to the inmate, which now you got the same state, taking 55% off $100 of the inmates receive funds of already taxed money, and they don't provide jobs decent enough for an inmate to make a living. They don't provide no type of services or anything to where an inmate is making income. And PIA works inmates to the bone. And if they do get $1 an hour, that dollar is no different than the 1 cent that slaves made back in the day, because the high cost of all things, the dollar is really not going to buy nothing but 2 soups today, because they got soups up to top ramen soups for 45 cents. You got to spend. They just reduced the price. We have been spending $8.80 for 24 soups, $10.80, $10.80 for a case of noodles that people in society probably pay no more than $2.53 for. But the way they do us in prison, they price gouge. They know the very things that inmates need to make spreads, such as the meat items, the sausages, the roast beef, the tortillas, but they increase these prices, and they increase prices on the only things that they have that are healthy, or, like the oatmeal, and they skyrocket the price on those things. So this billion-dollar industry cannot even provide a minimum wage to the inmate labor, where these inmates are working their fingers to the bone, and they can't even pay restitution except for the money that's being sent to them.